Hello, everyone, and welcome to the best and worst of Walt Disney World. I am your host, and in today's episode, we're going to be talking about the worst boat water-based attractions at Walt Disney World. And to join me in this discussion, we've got Mr. Charles Boda.
Hi, Rhino.
Hello. Mr. Steve Porter.
Hello.
Hello. And Mr. Craig Williams.
Hi.
Hello. So we are going to continue our discussion from our last episode, which was the best boat-based water attractions. We really have to specify this because this week we're talking about the worst boat water-based attractions, because Peter Pan's Flight is the reason why I have to say this the way I do, because Charles was the one who brought it up that Peter Pan's Flight is in a boat, and why is that not included? And I said, because it's not in the water. So this is on you,
We
Charles.
agree to disagree.
Anyway, so this week we're going to be talking about, like I said, the worst, and we're just going to dive right in here. I don't think this should have been on the worst, but I was outvoted, and that's okay, which is the Liberty Bell, located in Liberty Square in Magic Kingdom.
I'll just say I love it.
He dived right in.
But, because it's just where I need to be specific.
Okay.
I love it, but I am not the average park guest. I'm someone who's gone many times. I look for the different details and such, and I feel like that does appeal to many people. However, I think the average vacationer that comes has e-ticket on their mind, and this is the complete opposite of it. You kind of have to have the appreciation for transportation, or just slow, easygoing attractions. I mean, and that's just kind of the basis. So while there are those of us out there who love it, the same idea with the train. They love the train. There are people who have probably been 10 times and they don't even like looking at the riverboat, let alone wasting time getting on it. So,
yeah, well, I'm gonna real quick before we keep going. I'm gonna read the description on the official Disney website, because I think it is a little, everything on there is very magically worded and stuff like that. So it's very, and this, for those of you out there who may not know, who may have never been to Walt Disney World, but so the description is: board the colonial American inspired 3-tiered riverboat nestled in the heart of Liberty Square and embark on a relaxing journey around Tom Sawyer Island along the rivers of America. So this is a 17-minute journey into America's early frontier, and you can behold a menagerie of sights along the river's edge, including an early American settlement, an idyllic Native American village, Harper's Mill, Fort Langdon, Wilson's Cave Inn, woodland animals including deer, and unique views of Big Thunder Mountain, Splash Mountain, and the Haunted Mansion. And you, of course, get a lively narration by iconic American author Mark Twain as he details a time when he was traveling. It was as much about whatever. Anyway, this is worded weird. For one, I don't actually think I knew that was Mark Twain that was supposed to be narrating the attraction, but this description of the stuff you'll see is essentially your grandmother's lawn ornaments on the rivers of America. It's not quite as majestic as it sounds. I do still really enjoy it because I think it is very unique to ride a ship like this or a boat like this around, a theme park. It's kind of those almost going to be like those, unique experiences. However, this does exist at another Disney park, but I think you had something to say.
Well, no, I just think it is an important piece of the theming of Liberty Square and even a little bit of Frontierland when it goes around. Mm-hmm. But I think for us, it was like it came down to, did this score, outbeat It's a Small World? And that's so like when we're ranking them, it's not that it's necessarily a worst attraction. I certainly don't think it is. Right.
And worst is such a harsh word. It isn't just because we say worst doesn't mean we're saying it's terrible. Well, although some on this list are.
Yeah. It's not a bad attraction. I actually like it. It's fun and it's relaxing and it's cool. The thing is, it's not, you're not, for me, it's fun and it's not this gigantic adventure kind of like that thing makes it sound. It's not like a riverboat that circles the park or goes down an entire river or anything like that. If you've ever actually been on like an old riverboat and gone down a legitimate river, this is not going to be like a big surprise for you or anything. If you never had that experience, then yeah, it's fun and it's cool and it's totally worth it. But ranking it against the other ones, it's quaint.
I also think when we were brainstorming this, someone brought up the point of like, you ride a boat coming in, when you ride the ferry coming into across Seven Seas Lagoon. And I certainly think the riverboat is much, much better than the ferry. There's no comparison. But there are some people out there that probably don't care.
They're like, I already wrote about.
Yeah, right. I already went on the big boat today. I don't care. So
Big Boat Iceberg, my favorite movie. Okay, well, the next one on our list here after the Liberty Bell is the Grand Fiesta Tour starring the Three Caballeros. So this is located inside of the Mexico Pavilion at World Showcase in Epcot. And the description of this attraction is that Donald has disappeared, and it's up to Jose Carioca and Panchito Pistoleres, is that his name? Pistoles. It's not listed anymore, and we think it's because they don't want to talk about the fact that his last name means pistols. But and it's up to them to find him. So you float along this live action footage of the people and places of Mexico, superimposed with animation inspired by the 1944 Disney film The Three Caballeros, and join Panchito, Jose for the hilarity and hijinks as they search for their wayward friend throughout this fun-filled ride for all ages. Will they find him in time for the big finale in Mexico City? My guess is yes, they will.
wow.
Where are you getting this insider information?
I don't love this attraction. I like this attraction because it's one of those that I've gone on it my whole life. It has changed in the years since I was a child, but it is still one of those ones where you need a break from the heat. You go inside, it's air conditioned, it is relaxing. I do honestly feel like the superimposing of the Three Caballeros into the footage from Mexico seems semi-offensive, but I don't know. I'm not of a Hispanic background. I'm not Mexican, so I don't know how that would feel. But for me, it's kind of like I don't go on this attraction and learn anything about the country. You know what I mean? I see some of the sights, but I try to think about like in the Canada Pavilion, you have Martin Short who kind of walks you through a bunch of like Canada's traditions and stuff they do. And this one, it's simple.
It's a romanticized version of Mexico, though, with the scenes that they choose to show at the right times, while also adding in hilarious moments, bringing in some of that small world style, but at the same time kind of like Day of the Dead style figures in there as well too. So it blends all these different things that you kind of know about, but ultimately I'm in the perspective that when I go through that attraction and I see certain scenes, especially in the videos, like the one with the cliff diving, even though the thing shows like Donald falling off, like I see that cliff and I'm like, you know what, that's beautiful. I would love to go somewhere like that someday. And that's what I think ultimately the entire point of it is, to try to not teach you, but to show you like there is a lot to our culture. And yeah, we're masking it with a bunch of Disney characters, but that's also kind of when Walt Disney went on the Goodwill tour to South America and Latin America to make Saludos Amigos and Three Caballeros. That was the same idea, showing off these beautiful countries, but then bringing in Disney to it as well and market it in the movie. So it kind of does have the same idea to it. So
I think that the reason I think for me this was lower on the list is because I like the beginning of the attraction. Me and Craig would mention, like when you go around and there's the ruins and the volcano in the background, and you have the restaurant.
Of course,
San
who doesn't
Angelo.
love indoor, outdoor?
That part is great.
Outdoor, indoor.
It's really the middle section of this attraction when they are heavily basing the attraction off the screens, and I don't have any problem with screens when you use them correctly, but it just doesn't make. They're not like used to.
It feels like big TVs.
It's big TVs. Yeah. It's not like an added immersive, like, you're getting projections of showing them in a restaurant and there's a chef there, and but you're not in a restaurant in the part of the ride that you're in.
That's the one that I always think of, that screen specifically.
It like doesn't really make sense. Like the theming doesn't make sense of using the screens. If you use screens properly, I have no problem with it. But in this situation, it just doesn't make sense.
So you've never taken a boat through a restaurant in real life? You
Well, I'm just saying, you kind of do in the beginning of the attraction, but I'm just saying you don't. The screens don't make sense. Like what you're watching when you're on the boat in that section of the attraction, they don't coordinate with what's around you.
I would like the idea of I do like the idea, or the rumor is that this would turn into a Coco themed attraction, and I would like to see that because I do really enjoy the Day of the Dead and like that. I'm always fascinated by that sort of festivity that they celebrate in Mexico, and so I think there's a real opportunity to have that there. However, I will say, if you ride this attraction, one of my favorite parts is you get to see the animatronics of Donald, Panchito, and Jose at the very end, and I think that's like a highlight for me too. I do enjoy that. So it ends on a really good note. I'll say that.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So our next one on the worst list, and I actually don't like this attraction, and I know I will be argued with, however, is Living with the Land. So I'll read the description here. So it's the sail through the greenhouse of the Land Pavilion on a boat tour and behold 9-pound lemons, Mickey-shaped pumpkins, and more. You can gain a newfound appreciation for where your food comes from this cruise through the living laboratories of Epcot. Many of your favorite foodstuffs grow on trees and vines, and now even in soilless environments. So you can see the firsthand how Disney horticulturalists are using innovative growing techniques and crossbreeding high-yield crops with the goal of this is boring me just reading this, and I'm thinking about riding on this. I think as an attraction that's meant, like if you were on a field trip, you're in like 3rd or 4th grade and you're going on something like this, I would think this is a really cool way to educate those people and beyond too. Like, I'm not saying as an adult I know what they're I do go through this, and they talk about how they how they take care of crops and stuff like that, and I learn stuff, but it is like, is that what I'm here to do on my Disney World vacation? Like, and I know that Epcot is about educating. I just think this attraction for me does it in a very dry, boring way.
I love this attraction, but I totally understand why people don't. Like, so it's a take it or leave it. I don't have a lot invested. But what I will say is for like 9 or 10-year-old me living in Florida, this attraction is the kind of thing that justified Epcot field trips. Because if every attraction, like if all your attractions are turning into stuff like, like, oh, okay, so Frozen and this and that, like people are way school administrations are like way less inclined to sign off on a field trip to a theme park, but like you can whip out that Living with the Land, nice boring slog through produce, and that justifies taking the kids on a 18-hour trip to Disney.
Yeah,
I like it, but the justification, again, it's kind of like with the riverboat. It's just one of those attractions where I think locals have a more of an appreciation for it, as well as people that travel many times a year and they're looking for the stuff that they don't have to wait a long time for, and that is kind of a relaxing way to beat the heat that a lot of people don't know about. But if you put it in like the aspect of, okay, you have one day at Walt Disney World, or even say 3 days at Walt Disney World, that's all you have. Would you recommend Living with the Land to someone? And that's ultimately where I have to knock it. Yes, I love going past the animatronics and the sets, and the greenhouses. I guess they're cool to a point. It's like walking through the garden section at Lowe's or Home Depot, but every now and then they set up fun hidden Mickeys, so at least there's that. And the one like the lettuce is always spelling out Epcot or a logo. So there's cool things about it, but ultimately, for the average person, it's just going to be one of those things. I have a feeling you'd get off and be like, why did I just do this?
It's like it feels like something that they made me go to for school, like you said.
There's also that thing we were talking about on the best list as well, where it's like, how much does the boat have anything to do with the actual theming or attraction?
That's a good point.
And this could be a walkthrough. It could be like a ride through. It really would
tractor.
It really doesn't matter. You just happen to be in a boat.
It is a little bit about watering, like how water sustains crops. So I will give it that. But I do agree with you. Like
association.
A water ride in the Land Pavilion is kind of a strange combo.
You have to go back to when the attraction first opened, though, and there was a narrator on it. So they needed a way to do a tour through there, and obviously they weren't going to drive a tram through all of this area. So back in the day when it first opened, it made more sense to have it in this aspect. So I'll just throw that in.
All right. Well,
I would have chosen mules.
everyone get on your
Back mules.
yeah. All right. Well, our second all the way down here
Down.
toward the bottom is actually a newer attraction too. It's the Navi River Journey, and I'm sure there's some people out there who want to fight me on this, but you're crazy. I from the first time I rode this, I have said, let me read the description first. Family-friendly adventure, first of all. Glide down a gentle, mysterious river and feel a sense of wonder as the full beauty of Pandora reveals itself. Located within the Valley of Moara, Navi River Journey offers explorers an experience that has to be seen and heard to be believed. You climb aboard a reed boat and drift downstream after coasting through a series of caves and passing by exotic glowing plants and amazing creatures of the rainforest. You'll soon find yourself face to face with the Navi shaman of songs. So I was pointing at you to sing me the song. Give me,
I don't know what they do.
I'm away.
Oh, yeah.
Away.
Yeah, you're
Something.
right.
I don't know the
You're
words.
right.
I'm just making it up. But yeah, so essentially this comes to a conclusion as the shaman demonstrates her deep connection to the life force of Pandora and sends positive energy out into the forest through the power of her music. Literally, that is seconds of the attraction. That is 2 paragraphs of the description here. But it is, I remember the first time I rode this during the annual pass holder previews, and I was like, okay, if I'm not somebody whose job it is to go to Disney all the time and like ride these and look at this sort of stuff, if I'm not an uber Disney fan who loves animatronics and that sort of thing, like I'm just a regular person, like Craig says, just the average guest who comes in and I'm looking to go on a ride and I just waited 2 hours for this attraction, I would literally be like, what the heck did I just go through? Like, it's literally like, okay, there's some black light leaves everywhere. I get it. There's like a frog on the top that like I see here. Like, that screen behind the trees. It's a ride that you're like, why is this here? I don't even understand. Like, I get it, but it feels like a waste of I don't know. It seems like James Cameron wanted this in his house. And we're getting to tour what James Cameron wanted built in his house.
The thing that kills me about it is, especially in Pandora, they drop the ball so much. Where it's like before when they were leading up to it, and then finally it opens, and they're like, oh, and the cast members know these Pandoran words, and everything is somehow themed and proper. The entire land fits into the story, from what you eat to like everything, except this one ride where we put 0 effort into crafting a story. There's no like, here's the reason you're on this boat.
You're right.
You're searching for a shaman. There's nobody explains anything. It's just like, get in the boat and then leave.
Then you see a hippie in the woods.
Yeah, and then you leave
And
the
then they
boat.
tell you get out.
And it's like there is no story crafting whatsoever, and it wouldn't be that difficult to craft a story around it, and they just didn't. And maybe they had plans and they dropped the ball. I don't know what, but it just feels like you put so much effort into the technical immersion, the like, look, this, how wonderful this animatronic is. You're going to like it so much that you won't even care that there's no plot or background.
The bioluminescence in my mind was just, I don't want to say it was a failure, but when you ride Flight of Passage and you have the moment where you stop in the cave and the bioluminescence all comes to life, that feels more impressive and more immersive than it does when you're riding a boat through this forest that's supposed to have the same exact features to it. And then if we want to keep going on the story, you're going from daytime, depending on what time of day you're there, you're going from daytime, then indoors to this bioluminescence boat ride all of a sudden. So even on an average day, it doesn't make sense. So it's just a lot of confusion.
The thing about bioluminescence is too, is like you interact with that environment. Like I've done some bioluminescent like kayaks and stuff. Like
Jellyfish I did this year.
And you put your hand in the water and you can see the lights moving along your hand and stuff like that. It's so like this one's like keep your arms and legs inside the vehicle at all times. So like it's not, I get that it's not an earthbound experience. However, it is one of those times you're just like, what am I doing here?
I want to go back because Charles made a good point that I just want to stress is that it kind of felt like the art budget, the Imagineers that had the art budget for this, so like they had a ton of flexibility. They did so many. I think this is a beautiful attraction, but I just think that it's like all the effort was focused on, let's make this beautiful, let's make this, theming immersive, but the story is like, what the heck just happened? Like, I don't know, So for me, I totally just wanted to stress Charles's point on that.
Okay, well, we're going to talk about what we believe is the worst boat-based water attraction at Walt Disney World, and I realize, as we've said, boat, that this is actually technically a raft. But Kali River Rapids is what we think probably the worst of all the boat-based water attractions here. Now, I'm going to read you the description on the Disney website again, and it is, I feel like, not true. Hang on tight for a thrilling whitewater adventure along the scenic Chakarandi River. You will make your way to a wooden pagoda and then onto a large circular 12-passenger raft. Strap yourself in and gently glide up a 90-foot knoll into a mist, the native scents of jasmine and ginger filling the air. At the top, I never knew there were smells there. At the top, skim across an erupting geyser and brace yourself as you begin your descent down the mountain. During your voyage, bob up and down and gently spin, water splashing in all directions. Sail beneath a canopy of lush vegetation as your raft weaves back and forth in the fast-moving river. Graze rushing waterfalls and there's a lot of grazing in this attraction. Graze gushing waterfalls and bounce between craggy mountain bedrock and the raging current, then plummet down a dramatic 20-foot slope. There are also elephant squirters. I chose to not read the paragraph.
I was hoping it said that.
Somebody just wrote that terribly.
They're also elephant
But there is a whole message here. During your expedition, you'll notice a startling change in the scenic forest beauty. You encounter vivid green vegetation is unexpectedly transformed into a smoldering inferno of charred tree trunks, while hazardous debris litters the riverbanks. And with that, the warning is clear. Illegal lodging is destroying animal habitats and disrupting the harmonious balance of nature. I said illegal, by the way. It sounded like I said legal. I remember the first time I went on this attraction, and I waited in line for like an hour and a half, and it was so hot outside. It was like August. It was a terrible queue to be in, and then you get on this raft, and I thought, okay, this water's going to feel great. And I did not get one little ounce of water on my body somehow. I was the person in the raft who didn't get wet whatsoever. And on top of that, after waiting 90 minutes in the hot Florida sun, they then lit a fire that I had to be ride through, that I was like, this is a terrible idea. I get the point of the attraction, but it is a very basic, unexciting attraction. That's how I feel like. I feel like you're going to get on it and you're going to be like, why did I just wait for this?
Well, the wet aspect, like you get if you're not you,
I got wet the second time.
Okay, yeah. You get wet without the payoff, without like a Splash Mountain payoff of it. Like you get wet, but it's not worth it. If I'm going to be walking around for hours with swamp butt, then I'd prefer to
have chicken sing me a song on a riverboat.
yeah.
I don't know. What do you think about this attraction, Craig?
It is just bad. Kind of what Charles said about Splash Mountain in a way where with flume rides, I slightly agreed with him to a point. So the only other flume ride out there that I've been on that I think kind of matches up to Splash Mountain is the Timber Mountain at Knott's Berry Farm, but it's a complete different.
Oh yeah, I love that one's like kooky crazy. Like I love that one.
Yeah, I mean, that is what helped inspire Tony Baxter to one day make Splash Mountain. Mm-hmm. So there's a different sense to that. But with raft rides, like I feel like I've been at other parks and they've had superior raft rides that either because they're longer or because they're themed in a different way that makes a little bit more sense and actually is interesting. Mm-hmm. With Kali, it's too short. It doesn't really hit on the theming for me at all as I'm going around. And then ultimately where it fails is, at least with some of like the other raft rides that you can do at other parks around the country world, I feel like they have opportunities for everyone on your raft to get drenched at some point in time, whether it's from like a geyser shooting up or kids shooting you from some other area or whatever. And with something like Kali, Disney has the same problem out with Grizzly out in DCA. There's like that one drop where you know 2 people, maybe 3, depending on how it goes down, are going to get flat out soaked, and then the other people are safe. And yeah, sometimes when you're the safe one, you're like, yes,
Well, then the geyser
I don't
goes
have to
off at
worry
the
about
end.
that. Yeah, but ultimately, when you go on that attraction, you make the mental note to yourself that I'm fully prepared to get soaked. So then to not, it's kind of also a letdown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like Splash where
It's
you
a lot
can-
of hype.
Yeah, where Splash, like, you can go, okay, well, if I want to try to get soaked, I know I have to sit in the first, maybe the second row. Whereas you can go on that and be like, 4th row, get some splashes, whatever. With this, it's just, again, you build it up in your head like, okay, I'm ready to get drenched. And then you might get like 1 drop on you. And like, okay, all that psyching up, chose to wait 90 minutes on a day where it was 90 degrees outside, and I came off just hotter than I was when I went on.
Yeah.
So,
I just want to. You said there are other theme parks that have rapid rides that are better than this. SeaWorld just opened Infinity Falls, and I went there the other day for their soft opening. And I think it's a better raft ride than Cali River Rapids. And if a SeaWorld attraction, if you know anything about the current state of affairs of what SeaWorld theme parks look like right now, if a SeaWorld attraction is better than a Disney attraction, you know the Disney attraction is probably not too great.
I would, in the Flume section, Flume/roller coaster, I would put Atlantis above Cali River Rapids. And Atlantis is freaking awful.
That twist at the end, though.
Well, there you have it. So that was that was Liberty Bell, Grand Fiesta Tour, Living with the Land, Navi River Journey, and Cali River Rapids being the worst of the boat-based water attractions at Walt Disney World. What do you think are the worst at Walt Disney World? Let us know in the comments on this video. Please feel free to like and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on Disney World, Disneyland, Disney Cruise Line content, and all that jazz. Thank you, Charles, Steve, Craig, for having this conversation with me. That is going to do it for this episode of the best and worst of Walt Disney World. We'll see you next time.